Hi there, everyone. Welcome to today's special investor education. I'm Kat Delgadillo here to co-host our event with our CEO, Hall Martin, who's going to give you a little more information about what we do here at 10 Capital.
Thanks, Kat, and thanks everybody for joining us today for another great set of presentations. We have 10 Capital here that's hosting this event, and at heart, we help startups and investors connect for funding. Next slide. So in raising funding, you need to have a strategy, you need to have investor documents, and we help with that. We help put those together, update those, and make those relevant to the audience. We also put them in front of investors through online events like this and live events and dinner events and other formats. So in short, we provide the legwork, saving you time and money. Next slide. So we also help form capital for the early stage ecosystem. We help high net worth start family offices as they invest in emerging managers. We also help VC funds find limited partners, mostly through family offices. And we help angel groups find members. That's how they fund their organization and their process. So we're forming capital for the early stage. Next slide. We have several online events. The one we are in today is the investor education session. But we also have with us the Family Office Roundtable. It's a 2-hour event focused on topics relevant to the family office. We also have the quick pitch for tech companies. Each company gets 10 minutes to pitch, 5 minutes of Q&A. Then we typically have breakout rooms at the end like we will have today. And then we also have a life science syndicate event. And this is the event where we have our life science companies come in and talk about what they're doing. These are therapeutics, devices, diagnostics, etc. If you want to learn more about our events, please go to 10capital.group and click on the events button. You'll see all the events that we have coming up. We have 30, 40 a month that we do, both formally on the Eventbrite and also informally with each of the companies. Next slide. So if you're a startup in the room and you're thinking about fundraising, go ahead and take a picture of that QR code with your mobile and fill out the form, send it to us, and we'll follow up to see if this program is a good fit for you. Next slide. We also have a chat bot. We have been doing a podcast program called Investor Connect for about 10 years and have over 850 interviews with angel VC family offices about how they invest and why they invest and what they invest in. And we also have a startup funding espresso. The time it takes to drink an espresso, you can learn something about startup funding and investing. It's a 300-word micro blog post with about 1.5 minutes audio. Let's listen more about how we use these tools inside our AI chatbot, which we call Ava. Here's the video.
Hi there. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ava, your personal AI venture assistant. I'm your new best friend in the world of investing in startups, the 10 Capital AI chatbot. I'm here to make your journey through the startup ecosystem easier, faster, and a lot more fun. Need help finding your next big investment? Or maybe you're a founder looking for fundraising tips? I've got you covered. I pull all my knowledge from over 500 blogs, countless podcasts, and even some nifty calculators, like the How Fundable Is Your Startup tool, to give you the answers you need. So how do I work? Easy. You simply go to where I live on startupfundingespresso.com and look for me in the bottom right. As soon as I appear, go ahead and click on me to let me know you're here. And then there you go. All your questions answered at your fingertips. Whether you're into health tech, biotech, life sciences, or any of the other exciting fields out there, I'm equipped to help you navigate the trends, challenges, and opportunities in each one. Got a question? Just ask. And guess what? I even pull insights from the 10 Capital Network podcast on Investor Connect. It's packed with expert advice, success stories, and more, all designed to help you succeed in the venture capital world. So what are you waiting for? Let's chat. I'm here 24/7 to help you find the right answers, connect with great opportunities, and make the most out of your investments. See you on startupfundingespresso.com.
Great. I'd like to welcome today our new partner here, Jerry Lovett of SVF Group from the Bay Area. Jerry, can you tell us more about yourself and your group?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Thanks very much, Hall. I'm Jerry Lovett. I'm a CPA. I also have an MST. I have worked in the Valley for the last several decades as CFO. I'm working with the Silicon Valley Finance Group as a fractional CFO. In my career, several examples, I have helped a company grow from 0 to 25 million in 18 months and sell it to Cisco Systems for quite a hefty sum. And then later on in my career, I took a company from 40 million to 200 million, sold it for over $1 billion to the largest public company in France. Um, Today, at Silicon Valley Finance Group, we are helping high tech and biotech companies turn numbers into narratives, make smart and confident decisions. We help companies from late seed, early A through exit, and we support the founders, management teams with full stack accounting, finance services, including financial modeling and forecasting, FP&A, capital raise support, M&A readiness, and pragmatic gap compliance. Always tailored to the realities of the company's growth cycle. All right, that's me, Jerry Levitt with the Silicon Valley Finance Group. Thanks very much, Hall.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us. And for those in the audience, each of the companies today will have 10 minutes of pitch, 5 minutes of Q&A. Jerry and I will ask the questions, but you can also post those questions you have in the chat box, and we'll read those out as we go forward. At the end of these 3 presentations, we will then have a short presentation on bioconvergence, what the new technologies are that are coming up there, and then we'll have some breakout rooms afterwards to meet the individual presenters. With that, let's bring up our first presenter today, Combat Medical. Ed, if you're ready, go ahead and launch your slides and kick off when ready. And we see your screen. And we see your slides. You're good to go. You're still on mute, though.
Sorry, try that again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you now.
Can you see my slides?
We see the screen, yes. If you can go into full screen mode.
I apologize about this. Right, is that better? Sorry.
We don't see the slides yet.
You don't see the slides now. God.
We see you, but slides went away.
There we go. Can you see now?
Not yet. And we see the screen now.
There we go.
All right. I think it's good to go.
Okay, sorry about that technical glitch. Too many screens open on my computer, I think. Something freezing up. Thanks a lot, Hal, for introduction. So Combat Medical, we're about delivering hypothermic drug delivery. It's got a drug delivery platform that significantly improves clinical outcomes. We'll demonstrate that throughout the presentation, but what I mean significantly, we're talking about a 50% absolute improvement. We're already selling and profitable in Europe. We've raised 20 million to date, and we're looking to raise 5 million in this investment round. We've already got 2.7 of that actually committed. So what's the problem? There's been no innovation that's affordable, effective, or tolerable in the world's most expensive cancer, and that includes bladder cancer, and that's the primary one that we're focusing on. In terms of actually some background to give you where we are, we've got, like I say, commercial credibility. We did 4.3 million in sales, 700,000 positive EBITDA. We've done over 100,000 treatments across 350 hospitals, mainly in European university hospitals. We're in 35 countries. Got over 40 publications from phase 1, phase 2 real world registries, 7 patents. They're all, the main patents are now granted, and all the main ones are actually also granted in the US. It's a technology platform. You can see on the left of the screen, a bladder system and peritoneal system. We've also had $4 million of Innovate UK money, and we've gone through development and preclinical, and we're about to go to first in human for ovarian and colorectal cancer. All about delivering treatments. And the main focus today is about the FDA trial. We've had meetings with the FDA, and that's why we're looking for funding to be able to fund our US FDA and to be able to get access to the US market. So here you can see the system. It's a closed loop where the patient is catheterized and the drug is instilled in the bladder. That means you're directly delivering into the bladder, so there's no systemic side effects. And it's all enabled through our powerful patented aluminium heat exchanger, which means we can very accurately control the temperature. 43 degrees is a target, and we're within plus or minus 0.14 degree. We're able to control the pressure, so it's tolerable. It's easy to use and fits in with the existing practice. We've used it in a US market as well, and Duke University, so we know it works there. And it works with many different drugs. We've used 5 drugs so far, and potentially some of the competitors that I'll mention later, actually, we could be used as a catalyst to work with them. So it's a delivery platform that you have to remember. So why hypothermia? Well, cancer cells can't manage heat as well as good cells. So they get stressed above 106 Fahrenheit, whereas good cells don't get stressed to 111. Cancer cells then release when they get stressed, it activates the natural killer cells, and these target heat stress cells build up a natural immune memory, which creates a lasting memory. Also, at the same time, we've been shown a laboratory and a cellular level that you get a lot more drug absorbed, the concentration is a lot more potent, and it improves the overall delivery in the short term. In terms of the patient pathway, today, patient has diagnosis, then surgery, and then if they have high-risk disease, they'll have 27 immunotherapies over 3 years. And if it's a low-risk disease, 15 chemotherapies over a year. That means actually, though, the standard of care today, though 50% of patients will have a reoccurrence within the first year, 50%, 80% of all patients will have it in lifetime, which is why bladder cancer is the most expensive. They go around this circle and then it pushes up and it progresses, and then they get to the point where they don't respond to the treatment and they have to have their bladder removed. So the difference with our treatment, as you've seen from the example, is it's delivered in exactly the same way. But what we do is we're effectively turbocharging the treatment. So when you get to the clinical efficacy, and this is the most important point when we're running our FDA trial, we significantly reduce the reoccurrence and the progression rates. So we never get to the point in terms of actually having to have your bladder removed. So we're saving a lot more bladders. This is supported by multiple clinical papers. So this is an example, 174 patients. And in the 12-month follow-up, we have a 69.5% complete response rate. In another group of patients, Cologne University, famous hospital in Germany, again, 67% complete response rate at one year, showing very good rates compared with anything that's out there. And I'll talk about those in a minute. In terms of actually guidelines, because at the moment what people recommend is when you've got to have clinical evidence. If you don't have the clinical evidence to be able to get into the guidelines, they refer to groups, and this group is the most powerful group outside the European and the American guidelines group. They're called the International Bladder Cancer Group, and they've actually recommended to consider for in real world practice that you consider hypothermia to be able to look at bladder preservation now. So again, and the people that are mentioned in the yellow here that are highlighting, that all ones sit on our clinical advisory board or involved in our clinical trials. So what does this mean in real terms for patients? So if you take a patient, you take 10 patients that are treated over a year, at the end of the year, we'd have saved 7 of them, and then they'll be free of cancer. If we take Johnson & Johnson, one of the best performing drugs that's presented and published, at the end of the year, they'll only have 4 patients that are free of disease. That means 6 have failed to go onto the treatment, will have to have their bladder removed. In terms of the competitive landscape, it is becoming a very busy landscape. There's a lot of interest now within the market. So Merck were the first company to actually have a new drug approved, very successful in other cancers, but they've only got a 19% complete response rate at 12 months. Ferring, again, they've been able to do licensing deals off the back of their data, 24% complete response rate at 12 months. Immunity Bio listed, got a 2 million market cap, and they've got a 38% complete response rate at 2 years. Sorry, at 12 months. And Johnson & Johnson, again, published recently, they believe that it's going to be worth 5 billion in sales for them, to give you, again, not what I'm saying, but what others are believing in investing in. They bought this company for 315 million in 2019 on phase 1 clinical data, 44% complete response. And CG Oncology at the moment have the best published results with 46%. So if we look at it from a bottom-up perspective, in the US, the FDA trial that we're focusing on is BCN responsive. It represents just 10% of the market. So that's 10,000 patients. That means 150,000 treatments for us at a ASP of 4,000. That means it's a $600 million, and that's very conservative. In the US, for the selling the drug and just selling the drug, companies are actually targeting up to $400,000. So considerably, that's the $36,000 a treatment. And the total addressable market, again, is normal at 8 billion. Apologize. Let's come down. And in terms of market analysts, they're also supporting it. The reason why we're looking for money at the moment is to support an FDA trial. We are looking for 5 million. We can pay for 2 million of the trial ourselves out of our profits, but we haven't been able to do this. This is an FDA trial that's been reviewed by the FDA. We've had 3 pre-IND meetings with the FDA. It's been led by a guy called Jonathan Jarrow. He's ex-professor of urology from Johns Hopkins. And And then he was at the FDA for 9 years. And at the end of that, he was the chief medical officer, and he wrote the guidance for this particular indication, the trial that we're approving. So we've got a pathway, three meetings, and they've opined that our trial results will be good, will be applicable to be able to support our application, which is a 505(b)(2). We become a drug company in the US. We expect interim results at the end of 2026. To put that into context, the companies that were IPOing CG Oncology in 2024, they listed for 1.8 of 66 patients, less patients, worse data. We've got a worldwide presence already, as you can see across here in terms of the map. And we've got an established business model. It's a razor blade model. We give away the systems. Typically, we make our money from the kits. 90% of our money is reusable money, which renewable single kits, which are continually sold. So we've got sorry, I've got my tongue tied. Repeat customers, that's what I'm trying to say, coming back time and time again. So it shows a good blend already that we're moving away from capital sales, strong margins. We've got a robust supply chain that's already been set up, established, and we expect sales to exceed 500 million by 2032. We've got an excellent team. Both me and my business partner, we've together combined have had 20 products that we've developed and taken to market. So we've had a track record. We've got a good team to be able to build, that have actually taken startups and taken them to market as well, raising cash and do through all the way through to exits. And our clinical advisory board reads the who of bladder cancer and hypothermia. So the problem, there's been no innovation that's effective, affordable in the world's most expensive cancer. Well, HIVEC, our treatment, which is our brand name, which is now recognized as a generic term, has the best clinical results over all of these guys by a long way. We've got a very competitive price. We're already established and have a footprint within Europe in terms of price. We have lower side effects. It's easy to use compared with them. And we've done over 100,000 treatments. If you take all the trials that they've done, we estimate they've done 10,000. So we've got 10 times more experience than them. In terms of the ask, what we're looking for is we've got an FDA trial that's approved. It's started. We're about to enroll the very first patient, and we expect to have the interim data by the end of 26, which will then give us a valuation inflection point. We need to be able to raise the different balance of that money to be able to get that interim results, and we're expecting the results to be around 70%. At that point, we get an evaluation inflection point. In terms of what we are today, we've raised 20 million to date, and we're looking to raise a further 5 million. We had 2.7 committed from existing investors. 1.5 of that's already banked. The pre-money valuation is 38 million. That's to fund the FDA trial. We have ongoing discussions in terms of we're awaiting contact actually with Johnson & Johnson, Boston Scientific, who are watching our progress. And I'll leave you on this side in terms of actually the timeline of where we are, and I'd like to take any questions. Thank you.
Great, Edward. Great presentation. Thanks for that. For those in the audience, please post your questions in the chat box or the Q&A box. Jerry, what's your first question?
My first question is, what is the level of rigor needed for, where in the scheme of getting FDA approval do you fall? Are you at the hardest level of rigor to get FDA approval? Or are you medium? Where do you fall with the rigor required to get?
Well, it is a drug approval, so it's fairly rigorous, but we're at the very low end. The 505(b)(2), it's an existing drug. So mitomycin, the drug that we'll be applying for, is already approved in the US, but it's not indicated for bladder cancer. So even though we estimate for gemcitabine, mitomycin, those are drugs that are commonly recommended by the American guidelines and the European guidelines, none of them are approved for the use in bladder cancer on the labeling. They're used most probably about 1 million treatments a year in the US. So we're going to actually add on to the labeling. So it's a relatively low level in terms of the approval because it's an existing molecule that's already known, but you have to have the clinical efficacy and safety data to be able to show that it's effective with hypothermia.
And then you said you had $4.3 million in revenue or sales for 2024. What is the outlook of 25 looking like? So we're more than halfway through the year, assuming your calendar year end. What do you want for this year?
We're on target. We're looking to get to about 3.8, so about 15% growth year on year. So at the moment, it's organic growth because people, sorry, I'm talking sterling. That's confusing. Sorry, I was jumping from one to another. I looked at your face and I thought I've got the number wrong there. So it's 15% growth. So that will take us to dollar. That's going to be, what's it, Jenna? 5 million, I've forgotten.
And yeah, it sounds about right. What are the countries that you're currently selling in?
So our biggest countries are the ones in Europe. So it's mainly Europe. So Germany, Spain, UK, our direct markets, our biggest markets. Then Germany, Holland, France, Italy, Scandinavia. India is one of our fastest growing markets. We're also in Australia, South Africa. We're growing now into South America as well. So it's growing in terms of the number of countries that we've got.
What is the so from the revenue growth that you're getting, assuming that you're just focusing on where you are able to do sales now, what is the scalability of the company with its current situation in revenues?
So we've got 350 hospitals broadly across Europe. Now, at the moment, because we've only got phase one and phase two and real world registries, they're using that data and they're treating a group of patients that really have exhausted all their treatment outcomes. So it's a last chance resort. So it's early believers and adopters. And actually, our biggest account is a company called hospital called Sheffield, which is a big hospital in the UK. They remove the most bladders. But patients that go and find out when they have to have their bladder removed, they find out how morbid the operation or if they're unfit or unwilling, they have to be offered an alternative. We're the standard of care. So if that hospital, which does about 600 treatments a year, if all 350 did that, we would go from 4.3 million in sales to 30 million just with those hospitals going to the higher level, which again is a niche treatment, not the indication that we're talking, because we're talking about 10% of the market. So to give you an idea, in the UK alone, we would do the same volume of treatment that we would be doing globally at the moment, the 4.3 million. So it's very scalable very quickly because we've got the installed base that we've got. And of course, then new hospitals would grow very, very quickly. It's all based on clinical evidence. You need to have phase three clinical evidence to be able to translate and convert sales. That's the critical factor. And obviously, and one other important thing is that the phase three FDA trial, the FDA actually only need 3 month complete response rate. So doctors actually look at 12 and 24-month complete response rate. So it means we can submit our FDA application after we get to the 3 month point. So by the time we actually submit that and they're reviewing the data, we'll actually then get to the point where we've followed the patients up for 2 years and we'll actually hopefully be getting FDA approval with the clinical results at the same time.
Earlier you said that you give the devices away and then you sell the kits, kind of like the razor model. What are the margins on your kits that you're currently seeing?
So just to preempt that, to distributors that we sell to, we sell both the systems and the kits. So we sell everything to them. But in our, for example, our direct market in the UK, we give the system away free of charge and we make it. So our blended margin is 80%. If we're selling just the kits itself, it's 85%. The systems are about 75%. So we're making good margin out of both of them. But the money is in the repeat business, which I can now say from the kits. That's where all the money, where the distributor, and that's where we make all our money mainly because that's repeatable and high volume.
Great. We have time for one last question from the audience. Where are your clinical trials planned? Any at Stanford or UCSF?
No, that was one of the breakthrough moments we had because to run, so it's a clinically initiated trial in the UK, sponsored by the UK. It's done as a standard of care because they already use our treatment in the UK. So the trial's only costing $7 million. I say $7 million, and we're also getting government support from that. If we were running the same trial in the US, it'd be about $70 million. So, and the FDA specifically opined that the UK population was translatable and would allow for approval. So in the future, once we've actually got this data, then we plan to run trials in the US, but it will enough to be able to get us into the FDA and approve and allow us to become a standard of care because it's that's what the guideline committees, they look at phase three clinical data to be able to get approval and get into the guidelines.
Great. And that's our 15 minutes. Thanks so much, Edward, for a great presentation. Thanks, Jerry, for your questions. And with that, let's move to our next presenter, Lisa Marino of Doppel. So if Lisa, you'd share your slides, we'll kick off here in a moment. And we see your screen. I think you're good to go. You're still on mute.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Lisa Marino, and I am the founder and CEO of Doppel. What we've built is an AI-powered fintech platform that simplifies family funding. Hold on, I'm not able to advance my screen. There we go. Here we go. So many people know this is not new information. 2/3 of families are living paycheck to paycheck today, and struggling to get by. Raising a kid costs over $300,000 per child. And the other side of the equation is there's billions of dollars in philanthropic and government aid that goes unused every single year. Just two small examples are on the government side is Head Start and CCDF. That's mainly childcare related. They have 26 billion annually, and somewhere around less than a third of eligible families actually apply. Same thing with donor advised funds, right? They've got 250 billion annually allocated, and they only deploy less than a quarter of the funds each year. And so what's the result? Families are foregoing 10 to 40% of eligible funding that they can use to help raise their child. And how do I know this? Well, I was on welfare while pregnant and finishing Stanford Business School. I built in a platform what we did for our own family, and I can tell you the process to get that done was very hard. It was fragmented, it was confusing. But today, with AI and other types of technologies, Doppel can be the rails that connect families to the funding that they need. So how do we do this? What's our solution? We start by helping a family prioritize their needs, and then we collect a lot of pre-qualification information from them. We feed that then into the AI engine. Once we've collected that information, we ask the family to create a life registry. And when you think about it, it's not like a baby list with strollers and car seats and, basic things you need for the birth of a child. It's much broader than that. It's services. So think doulas and childcare. It's diaper subscriptions. It's piano lessons. It's anything that your family needs over time, not just for the birth of a child. One of our biggest solutions is around 529 college savings accounts. What then happens is the engine pre-qualifies the user and matches all potential funding sources. We then report back to them basically a gap analysis that says, okay, based on what you asked for, your budget is X. We think the government can cover this much. Philanthropic dollars can cover the diapers, for example. Your friends and family can absorb this much, and your out of pocket is X. And we're really transferring dollars away from out of pocket to families towards the village that's supporting them. TAM is huge. Annually, you've got over $80 billion of government and philanthropic dollars allocated to education, maternal and infant health, and just families in general. You've got on the SAM side, you've got over 34 million families in the US with kids under 18. Out of the gate, we're focusing on 1 million families that are lower income. And we know that we can drive at least $900 of net revenue per family, which is how we get to 900 million if we were able to achieve 1 million families. Look, we've got a real business today, and which is really exciting, right? We did about $1 million of revenue in 2024. That was a 236% year-over-year growth rate. We've got 15,000 families we've ever served. And today we can acquire users for our kids' subscription clothing business very profitably. What we've added in the beginning of 2025 is the ability to also manage subscriptions for diapers as well as for formula, right? These are the things that families need on a recurring basis. And what that has done for us is it's expanded our gross margin dollars for families by a factor of 4 over a 4-year period. So that's really exciting for us. And that's just simply leveraging the platform that we acquired in August of 2023. Layering on these other components makes it even more interesting. So what's next for us? We've got a bunch of pilots that are starting that we're incredibly excited about. There's 2 in LA with Pacific Clinics and 1 with New Jersey. We also closed on $500K from New Jersey this week. That's part of our overall funding round, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. These pilots are exciting because let's take the Head Start pilot with Pacific Clinics. Obviously, Head Start is huge in the US. We do a good job here. We can scale it out to so many more organizations. And Head Start does a great job of helping on the childcare side, but there's still so many gaps in funding for this family, and we're going to be focusing on funding those gaps, such as diapers and formula. We're going to do our V2 AI release in Q4, And the rest of the year is really going to be spent collecting data on the pilots and scaling them. How do we make money? So we really have three buckets. Let's start with the easy one, which is our subscription revenue today. Our margins there are, we're estimating today they're about 55%. We're estimating they're going to come down as we scale diapers and baby food to about 30%. And that's recurring purchases with the biggest dollars allocated. We also generate revenue from gifter fees, from friends and family, as well as the philanthropic side. And then we also make affiliate revenue from like Amazon, for example. So let's say a stroller gets purchased. We collect all the funding, we go buy that stroller off of Amazon, we take an affiliate fee. Everyone does this in the industry. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. In terms of, our financials, we get to be profitable by the middle of fiscal 2026. I think we're a very attractive acquisition candidate by the end of 27 as our ARR really becomes something interesting. And by 2030, we will have almost 140,000 families on the platform, which is just a 0.4% market penetration rate. Key drivers are cost of customer acquisition, which is roughly $150 per family. We're estimating a net margin of $900 per family per year. That's probably low, particularly when we're dealing with diapers, formula, and clothing subscriptions. Because a lot of this revenue is recurring, we have a lot of prepaid revenue, which is great. It provides a lot of visibility and cash up front. Competitively speaking, I think there's a couple key takeaways here. We've got obviously multiple competitors in the sector, and we compare ourselves both along tech lines as well as strategic value lines. In the 2x2 matrix, you can see our core value proposition relative to our competitors, which is that Doppel can help families fund themselves over time, given the depth of our funding sources. And if we move to the larger table, here's where we keep track of our feature comparison that drives our core value proposition. In terms of management, we've got 3 C-level execs. We've worked together for 13 years. We scaled RockU from 15 to 150 million very profitably, which we sold in 2018. I also sold my last company to McClatchy Media, who also happens to be a lead investor in this round. As a team, we're experts in product development, e-commerce tuning, and the overall mom audience. What's the ask? We're doing a 2.6 million round, of which 1.7's already in. That leaves 900K, which we're looking for today. Terms are 7 million pre-money, 1x preferred, and you're co-investing with me. I've already put in 500K this round. I obviously did much more before that. McClatchy Media, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, and very well-known investors, Jeremy Liu and Neil Dempsey. Plus there's some other angels, some dogs and cats as well. Use of funds, half of it's going to be to continue building out the platform, and then the rest is going to be onboarding birth workers. So think doulas, night nannies, other healthcare workers, as well as families and moms. So that's it.
Great presentation, Lisa. For those in the audience, please post your questions there. And Jerry, what's your first question?
My first question is, so what company acquires Doppel? Who would be on your target list to talk to for the acquisition?
Sure. So definitely a GoFundMe, baby list for sure. Anybody who's in the registry space, right? So you've got the Knot, Baby List, Bumble. There's a bunch in that sector. I think we become interesting also for those companies that have a big concentration in consumer products and families. So think Kimberly-Clark, J&J, some of these other organizations. And then, over time, obviously, a lot of PE firms, given the type of cash that we're going to be generating, will be interested in us as well.
The 2.6 million raised today, what's the runway for that? And do you need to make another round down the road to get you to your next stage?
So I am very anal about profitability. Let's start with that. And so this 2.6 million will get us to profitability. At that point, we can decide how fast we want to grow. I'm also applying for grants as well. That's in the beginning process. So there could be another up to $2 million coming into the company from SBIR. But we will be able to get profitable off of what we're raising right now.
Comfortably, or is there some risk in that forecast?
It's pretty comfortable.
What's your headcount today? Are you acquiring more headcount with this round? And what's your burn rate today, and what will it go to?
So our burn rate today is roughly 75K a month. And we don't, if we hire people, it's going to be 2 to 3. So our customer support is run out of the Philippines, so that's very inexpensive. On the product development side, we've got a team of 3 engineers that runs pretty inexpensively and efficiently. We will need somebody on the philanthropic side for sales for sure. We don't need to do that today because I'm the one proving out that piece of the model. And then there's 1 or 2 others that would be helpful, such on the marketing side largely. But we've got a lot of scale in our model today.
Those are the questions I have at the moment, Hal.
Great. Thanks, Jerry. And so, Lisa, tell us more about the New Jersey opportunity. How did you come upon that, and what's been the attraction so far?
Well, so when I started Doppel, I was living in Big Sky, Montana. And I realized about a year into it that there was no way I was going to be able to fund and scale this in Montana. So when New Jersey stepped up and wanted to be partners, I moved and now I live in New Jersey. And it's been great. So not only did they fund this week, but we've got access to hospital systems, to families, to birth professionals, whether you're doulas or an OB, and that helps us really keep the customer acquisition costs very low. While we will do classic digital marketing solutions like anybody would, unlike a baby list, that is not our primary source of families coming into the system.
Great. And can you tell us more about the team? You talked about RockU. What exactly was RockU, and what was the skill set you had then that you're using now?
Sure. So at RockU, we were a classic social media company, and our content was games. So we were the first group that actually put ads in games in a social environment. And it was a product that I actually came up with. And over time, we grew from 15 to 150 million, largely through acquisition. We acquired over 25 games. And so when it comes down to like tuning the minutia to figure out how to get every dollar out of a player, there aren't many people who are better at it than we are. And that same mentality applies to tuning for families and gifters, getting them through the system.
Great. That's the end of our time. Thanks so much for a great presentation. Jerry, thanks for great questions. And with that, let's move to our third presenter, Chris Bishop at Finigrate. Chris, go ahead and launch your slides and kick off when you're ready.
All right. Can you see the slides?
Yes, we can. You're good to go.
Full screen. My name is Chris Bishop. I'm CEO of Finigrate Technologies. We are a fintech company that's focused on collections and recovery software for the banks and credit union space, as well as fraud, dispute management, and automation and integration for those processes. The problem with the banks and credit unions today is out of the roughly 10,000 banks and credit unions, believe it or not, most of these guys are using 20-year-old technology for collections and recovery. And even the majority of them are in the community bank space are using spreadsheets for tracking your disputed charges, and fraudulent charges. So what we've heard from our current customers is that our automation and integration with our solutions for both collection and recovery and dispute management can reduce their operating processes and costs and errors by as much as 80%. We have 3 products Fusion CRS is the collection and recovery product, which focuses on primarily banks and credit unions in that below $100 million in assets, or 100 billion, I'm sorry, in assets to about 100 million for a credit union. And Fusion DMS, which is our fraud dispute management. So if you think about a disputed collections for or disputed charge for a credit card or check fraud, this starts that process from intake. Whenever you click this as a disputed charge, all the way through resolution and reporting. Both of these products have a lot of regulatory requirements behind them that the banks are audited on each month and each quarter, and it impacts their top line financial as well as their bottom line operating cost if they don't follow the process and the regulatory requirements specifically. And then Fusion LRS is kind of a data conversion business from our last two companies. We got back into that business because that's kind of what we've been known for in the past 20 years. So that's we used our experience with automation and integration over the last 20 years in dealing with bank mergers and integration, or bank mergers and acquisitions, to create the dispute management product and to create our Fusion CRS product. And now we're taking it to the next level toward the end of this year with AI and agentic process automation, so that we can make some of this process more of a touchless, automated, and even do some customer education and financial literacy in our collection recovery products for the end users. Our total addressable market today, like I said, we have a $200 billion bank in assets, and we have a $100 million credit union. We can serve any community banks or credit unions in that space. We really focus on those that are 150 million to about 15 billion. So 5,500 banks and credit unions in that space today. The majority of them are using spreadsheets for dispute management. It just blew my mind. But to track those manually. On the left-hand side, you can see a list of some of our current customers, from some of the largest ones to some of the smaller ones, both banks and credit unions. We have roughly about 100 customers today. This slide's a little bit outdated with all products. And on the right-hand side are the largest core banking software companies in the country. And these companies have always resold or referred our software and services to their base. We sell directly into their base as well. And none of these have a competing product for what we offer. So we started this business with about $1 million in cash, and we raised another 2.2 from friends and family. Myself, I've done this 4 times before with 4 previous companies and sold those to either large public companies or to private equity. Jason Alfano, CTO and co-founder, has been with us the last 2 companies. Terry Nelson was the president of Fusion CRS, the collection recovery business that I acquired in 2021. So this kind of speaks a little bit to that acquisition. There we acquired 2021 Fusion. We rebranded as Finigrate Technologies. Previously, again, I had bootstrapped 4 separate companies since 1998 and really started in the business. Always been in fintech, and we sold those companies to either, like I said, a large private equity or a public company. And then I've worked there, like with Jack Henry Associates. I think I worked there for 7 years post acquisition. Grew that to about $100 million business unit. So I got experience working with big companies and small companies as well. So the financial summary here, we've invested a lot into the revenue, or into the people in the process. Since I bought the company, we've doubled revenues every year since we bought the company. If we take out the expenses for the actual last acquisition payment, it would have been about $300,000 to the positive this year. We're investing heavily in 2025 in new marketing strategies, new marketing people, and some AI, and we return to profitability at the end of 25 and 26. The use of the proceeds, we're offering raising $1 million at a 12 million valuation cap. You can see a 20% discount, 7% of the minimum investments, $25,000. And we've had good success on that to date in the last 5 months. The usage of these, as I said before, would be used for additional sales and marketing, new website, PR, but also development of our AI roadmap and staff to make the changes required there, and then working capital. The investment target we've had, and we started this journey five months ago. Had great success with already $865,000. We're probably going to go over a little bit to $1.3 million instead of the original $1 million. And again, we looked at using the additional 300,000 probably for more marketing, more operational type stuff or faster development. Possible exit scenarios include having some of the larger software companies, as I mentioned earlier, that don't have these competing products for an acquisition. There's a lot of private equity that's already expressed interest, and we've turned down several offers already that are kind of very early in the process. But a lot of private equity want to get into fintech. It's always been a hot space. A lot of the adjacent software providers, companies that offer multiple other fintech products but don't have these products. There's not a lot of competition in the market for this. For their Fusion CRS product, there is competition at the very low end of the market, or I'm sorry, for the dispute management. There's a very low end entrance into the market that got in there about 2 years before we did. A very low cost leader. Then there's the company that serves the top 30 banks in the country, which we never run into in a sales environment. So we really focused on servicing that middle market community bank and credit union. So we feel like there's opportunity for either a roll up of the bottom two guys or an acquisition from the largest guy. There are lots of opportunities there. The returns, I should say, too, are listed there. You can see even at a modest multiple of 5 to 8, you can see the returns there on the investment. So typically fintechs are more in the 10, maybe even 12% range, depending on, especially if you play in fraud and reg tech like we are. So in summary, we have had good revenue growth since the time we bought the company, doubling top line revenues almost every year. We've got almost 100 customers. Most, if not all of them, have 3, 5, or 7-year long-term contracts. The products are new. Our Fusion DMS came out 18 months ago. With Fusion LRS for the merger and acquisition data conversions came out at the end of last year. So they're all in the new technology stack, cloud ready. Again, the experience with our team and management team that have bought into the company and have 4 previous exits prior to this, kind of in the same space. A large addressable market and a large opportunity for exit. So I'll end it there.
Great presentation. Jerry, what's your first question?
Hey, Chris, thanks for that. Yeah, a bunch of questions here. So, how do you price this? What's the revenue model with your customers? How are you licensing this with them?
So we kind of really have 3. If you think about the 3 separate products, the Fusion CRS and Fusion DMS go together in a lot of cases for fraud, dispute management, as well as collections and recovery. So we license the DMS product is a SaaS-based license. They're all written for long-term contracts, billed or invoiced. So how they say billed monthly, invoiced annually, right? So it's a monthly service fee that's invoiced annually in advance. Our Fusion CRS has a high license revenue right now, which is billed at the time of contract signing, and about a 25% holdout plus 22% maintenance each year thereafter. So they have a subscription rate of 22% for every year, and those are typically a 7-year contract.
And are you licensing by the instance? Are you licensing by the end user, or do you get
It's a great question. In the case of CRS, it's both. It's by the asset size of the institution and the number of users on the system, because that's more of a back office, more of a robust integrated system there. So the more users we have, the more we want to get paid for that. For the DMS, it's just based on the asset size, and we're moving towards kind of based on the number of disputes too, so we can kind of sell it in chunks of different sizes for disputes.
Yeah. So, what's your capability for expand once you've landed at a customer? What sort of initial revenues do you see, and then what's the potential for each customer?
So I think the potential is really good, something we haven't had the time to explore yet. A couple of our customers are running both of our CMS and DMS products. There's a lot of opportunity. We went back into the CRS base to resell integration, to resell things like texting, click to pay, integration to the phone systems, and other technical integrations over the last 3 years since we bought the company. But there's also opportunities to go into those and offer Fusion DMS for the dispute management, because we're selling to the same people, primarily the same C-suite, the CFO in the organizations that we built a relationship with.
So then, are you also getting implementation fees and customization work as well?
Yes, for the CRS, we get quite a bit of that for CRS, because again, we may have 6 or 8 different interfaces to the core, to skip traces, to legal, to their phone system, to all these different things. So there's some professional services in there.
And does each bank require their own instance for security reasons? And what are your costs there?
Yes.
And who are you using for that? Is it AWS or Azure, Microsoft
So
Azure?
we have a lot of the CRS is actually on site at the bank for those
Okay,
reasons, and then AWS is who we use for our hosting.
all right.
Great.
Those are the questions I have, Paul. Thank you very much.
Great. You have many exits there, but can you talk about the most likely one that you'll come across?
I think it's probably going to be a private equity or another strategic software firm that is looking to add products in the areas of fraud or collections as our economy continues to teeter and go up and down, into their portfolio.
Okay. And tell us more about the go-to-market strategy as far as how do you plan to get out in front of this segment of banks that you want to go after? Is it a direct sales force? Is it indirect? Do you already know them? What's the challenge there?
So because I've been in the market 25 years, we know all of the companies and they know us. Thankfully, we've got a good name. They're reselling a lot of times or referring our products already. One of the challenges is going to be, one of the challenges we're going to overcome and we're going to address with this funding is to hire a business development manager. So that whenever I kind of set up the relationships or one of my other guys tees up the relationship at the C level, then they can drive the business down through the organization on a quarterly basis. So, and then just some direct sales marketing type things as well.
And what's the fundraise so far going? What are you seeing as far as traction with the fundraise in this case?
We've done really well with this. I think we started this 4 or 5 months ago. We have had raised 860, 70, $90,000, whatever it was on the screen there, to date. And we're about to close this out. So it really went quickly, with the help of everybody that's involved. But I think it's because we've done it before. We've got a great track record. It's a product that everybody understands. There's a need for, if you look at the economy right now and the amount of disputes and the way the fraud is increased. What most people don't believe is that the banks really don't have something to address this already, right? So fundraising is going well, I think, because of that.
And how much is left in the round at this point?
There's about 300,000, I think, left in this round where we're going to oversubscribe to a 1.3 target and then use the additional for operating capital or to accelerate our AI development and invest in the operations.
Can you talk about the AI strategy there? How's that going to play out?
So I think that's a good question for a lot of companies right now. I mean, our goal, since we've spent 20 years doing process automation and access and automation to all these different banking systems, it's exciting to actually dive off into the AI world and see what's available there. But we have to realize that banks are not, especially community banks, are not on the bleeding edge of anything, right? So we've got to be sure it's very secure and when we put something out there. So it's going to have to be as private libraries, some private LMs, that type of thing. So a lot of that's coming available now in the fintech world through third-party organizations that are building these secure types of AI just for banks and credit unions. So we probably won't have to develop it all. We'll use a part of their secure portals.
Great. Well, that's the end of our time. Thanks so much for a great presentation, Chris. And thank you, Jerry, for your questions as well. With that, let's move to our next portion. We have a presentation on bioconvergence. This is a new area that's coming up very strong in the marketplace these days. And wanted to talk about that as we're seeing a lot of new business opportunities coming up for investors as well. Let me go ahead and share my screen and go through a few slides. And then at the end, I'll take some questions with it. Can everybody see my slides?
No.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I have to share my window first.
There we
How
go.
about now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right. Great. Let me open this up and hit the presentation button. And so we work with a lot of companies in the life science space, medical device, therapeutics, and diagnostics, and we're seeing an increasing number of tools coming through that are matched with data, AI, and other technologies to enhance them, and found that that's almost creating a whole new segment in the marketplace as well. And so what we're finding out there now is that there's a lot of technologies are really advancing and enhancing the traditional tools that we're using out there. And we're seeing a lot of, for one thing we're finding is that it can drop the cost in starting a life science company quite a bit. Used to be you had to raise $100,000 to I mean, $1 million to start a life science company, but now you can do so with as little as $100,000. And there's tools for how you might do testing, lab work, CRO work, FDA submission work, and so forth that are coming out to drop that cost. I will say that the cost of clinical trials is still high, and there we'll talk about how things are coming to lower those. But up front, though, you were seeing a lot more companies launching and starting in the life science space because the cost has dropped dramatically to go engage with it. There is a convergence in some of these technologies. In, for example, companion diagnostics. We're seeing an explosion of different diagnostic tools coming out, and had several in our program over the years, talking about how they can actually increase the knowledge of the user of their physical condition through these tools. And that we're finding that there's increasing adoption of things like genetic testing as well. But what we're finding is the driver forces is number one, there's AI, machine learning, big data, and wearables are the key drivers that are transforming healthcare innovation. And data is a key factor. I would say healthcare is probably one of the richest data sets there are out there in the world as far as data markets, transfer of data, monetization of data, and we're seeing more of that. And of course, the healthcare is centered to everybody's social life, and so it's central to how we live. The U.S. market is now $6 trillion, so it's one of the best markets for startups to go after. A huge amount of money and a near infinite number of problems to solve. But we're also finding it does things like accelerates drug development. It used to be you had to go raise money for your clinical trials. Well, now people are mapping AI into their system to create drug discovery systems, and then they're licensing out the targets and using those funds to actually pay for the clinical trials of the targets they want to pursue. So we're seeing a lot of interest in that. And then next is personalized medicine is continuing to be a big driver. And those with big data sets are able to provide personalized data treatments that go out there using genetics and other profiles. And finally, wearables and AI together starts to bring a new opportunity for monitoring a patient's condition and giving physicians additional information about how they're progressing in their case. However, data also brings some challenges with it. If you have data, you're now responsible for it, and there are data privacy risks. It's not only just Europe and California that have laws around these. I'd say about half the states in the U.S. have laws around data privacy in this space, and they're very rigorous. And so it's a very high stakes game if you're hacked with that level of data going out there. But one of the more exciting things I find out there is just the convergence of bio and engineering coming together. And we're seeing some very interesting applications coming up that are game changers to the life science space. Here's a list of some of them, like bio-nanorobotics. We're seeing many more nano tools coming in where they position themselves through the body and they release therapeutics at the right place in the right time in the right way that it gives you better targeted drug delivery. One of the more interesting ones is organ on a chip. I saw a demonstration the other day from University of Michigan where what they're trying to do is replace animal testing with organs on a chip, and they're called biological assays. And the example I saw was a intestine or an intestine sample where it was moving like the intestine would move, had blood flow, had neural connectivity in it. And the idea is to create a biological assay so you would actually do your clinical trials on the assay instead of a live animal or human or what have you. And this would greatly speed up the process of doing clinical trials and would actually reduce quite a bit the cost of the trials as well. We're also seeing a lot more with 3D bioprints and tissues that are vascularized coming into the market today, usually driven by regenerative medicine. So there's a lot of interesting things going on there. And then we're also seeing a lot more synthetic biology where biological systems can be self-healing and self-correcting in some ways. And we're also seeing many implantable devices coming in. You've talked about Tesla, Elon Musk's chip that goes into the brain that you can actually control things. We're seeing many more demonstrations of that coming out. I saw those about 10 years ago when they were using a head harness to measure the P wave, and you can control a little motor car. Those have greatly advanced forward where they're going through getting FDA approval right now. And finally, there's a lot of new biosensors and smart devices out there that are used to measure different diagnostic conditions as well. So we're going to see more and more of this coming up, and we're finding that it changes not only the application, but it also enhances the ability for creating startups. Startups can now map in technology components into a biological component and create a whole new category with a whole new science there. Here's a picture of some of the different tools out there that is coming into AI and cloud computing, robotics and data on one side, and it's coming together to create things like bioinformatics, automated analysis, bioprinting, and others that you see on the screen. So as you come forward with your investment thesis, you might want to start thinking about bioconvergence as a place to invest your dollars because there's a lot of great new technologies coming together to supercharge this space. The areas you want to look at are things like precision medicine, personalized treatment, the drug discovery space. We see people selling their drug discovery engine for a certain amount of recurring revenue dollars every year. And that gives great validation to their company because if you're selling your data, then you're probably working in the right space, as most investors would figure out. And then AI is accelerating a lot of different applications. We saw several examples of replacing, or not replacing, but assisting people reading, for example, X-rays and MRIs and so forth, not because they can't do it, but because there's just not enough people to go around, and they were doing one for 100 screens. One physician would look at 100 screens a day. Now with AI, they can look at 400 screens a day. So it's greatly augmenting and filling the gap that is left by lack of number of people that can actually do these things. So a lot of innovations coming through this place, and it's a great place to do investing for your startup as well. So with that, we're at the end of our time. If anybody has any questions for me, please drop me a note in the chat box. We're going to now move into breakout rooms. I'll have my own breakout room. If you'd like to talk about any of these technologies or about 10 Capital, please come see me. And then you can find the other presenters in today's room as well. With that, we'll go move into that. Thank you guys for joining us today, and looking forward to seeing you next time. Have a good one.